Real truth and that which is politically correct can be miles apart, and that which is politically correct in one society or at one time in history may not be in another. Truth, however, remains a constant across all boundaries, all ages. Sometimes a society has not adjusted to the point of accepting a particular truth, but nothing can stop that truth from being accurate and being the best place to stand when working on a political issue that falls under its heading. Sadly, too often that which is considered politically correct may in fact be evil, and that evil factor means it is not the place to stand politically or otherwise if a good solution to an issue is being sought. 2 examples: Berlin Wall and Confederate flag, both politically correct walls. We all remember President Reagan's famous words in Berlin: "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." It was right that that wall should come down, and it was right that the President of the United States should make that demand to Mr. Gorbachev while standing in the presence of that existing evil. In Russia's political circles, the Berlin Wall was politically correct. It served their government and their elite. While presidents were claiming unity with Berliners and condemning that disgusting wall, they were claiming unity with plantation owners and their descendants back home by accepting and allowing the Confederate flag to fly over some government establishments. They were allowing this flag flying for a politically correct reason: the need to collect votes. This need to win votes allowed them to not ask Americans to tear down an equally evil wall in their own country. When a government accepts a practice or a symbol, be that a wall or a flag, they are agreeing with it. If they refuse to speak against that symbol because it would cost them votes or power or wealth, then they are acting as being in unity with or in awe of the symbol. The big difference between these two walls is the physical factor. One could jump across the Berlin Wall and race to freedom, but not so with the wall made of the Confederate flag. Of the two, the Berlin Wall was reasonably fair as far as improper walls go. It encompassed all races. Not so the Confederate flag. That flag continually holds two groups imprisoned. One by choice: the closed-minded, bigoted, and enslaving whites seen dancing on one side, and the no-choicers, the colored people, trapped on its shaded side. At any time, whites can, and have, stepped off their part of this racial thinking symbol, but without President saying, "Mr. and Mrs. America, take down that flag." No colored person is free of the chains found on their side. These 2 examples are not limited to the United States, but unfortunately for the people of the United States, being one of the major players on the world stage and endorsing free speech means that much of what you do is exposed and overexposed to the world. Therefore, it is easy for people like me to find examples about almost everything found within a culture, both the good and the bad. Thanks, America, for this easy picking. It is not at the Americans I am pointing my finger, but rather toward the dangers present when people rely on the elite to govern correctly, without a safety valve available for the people, when those who govern are wont to quote politically correct statements and pretend that there is total truth in those words. They want you to act upon your emotions, not your intelligence. While it is true that governments must not be allowed to operate without a tool being available to safeguard the people, it is equally important that the people do not have total control over their government. The Barnes theory of voting and his value vote ballot easily accomplishes these 2 necessities. The people can give direction to their government, and when the proper steps have been taken, steps which regulate value vote ballot Part B's input, and that voter input's direction is found sound, it must be acted upon. However, that same set of rules can find that the people's request is not good for society, or is illegal, or is an unfair burden on one section of the people, and when that result is found, it must be rejected. With the Barnes theory of voting, governments remain free to study the world and their country and make decisions in general, on a daily basis, until they step across the line, or refuse to step into a needed area of concern. Then the people can force them to study and implement that which has been found sound on that subject in Part B. One thing that the American people could have told their government in Part B, had they been using the value vote ballot, is, "Mr. President, take down that flag. Under this better voting system, politicians become free to enforce social factors which may be controversial, or change their political platform, and all this without political fallout. Equally important, the people are not forced to wait until something riding the politically correct bus has had its dark side exposed by the truth before they can see progress in that area. Often it will be Part B on the value vote ballot that exposes the truth. I will end by stating what is strictly my point of view concerning any continued use of the Confederate flag. The Confederate flag should remain flying over the graves of the Confederate soldiers who died during that war. They died for what their society and they believed, good, bad, or indifferent. And that action is a lesson of history that neither they nor anyone else can or should change. That section of history must not be swept under the carpet. Their life was important. They died, as many others around the world have died, fighting for what they believed, and sometimes fighting for what their governments insisted they fight for. The graveyards filled with those who died in the terrible world wars have tombstones containing the symbols representing their country's side in the war. Both sides. Example, Canada and the maple leaf, Germany and the Iron Cross. Removing symbols like the Confederate flag from Civil War cemeteries and the Iron Cross from the World Wars cemeteries bleaches the facts. It removes the horrific truth that deadly strife can happen anytime, anywhere, and to anyone when politically correct thinking rules. Seeing the symbols displayed on the endless rows of graves filled with the bodies of the young only tends to accentuate the stupidity of political thinking that happened yesterday and is happening today. Those politicians whose actions are based on political thinking are urinating on all those graves, both sides. We must not keep a system which endorses politicians' vote-getting on the platform of political correctness. At this writing, the Confederate flag is losing some of its sheen. It is reported that Alabama's governor has lowered the Confederate flag from monuments outside the state capitol. History's hard lessons should not be forgotten, nor should they be idolized. Thank you for listening. Bill Barnes, developer of the Barnes theory of voting and designer of the value vote ballot. It is your democracy. Ensure that you have a say in its operation. Demand your country adopt the Barnes theory of voting with its people-empowering value vote ballot. Have a great day.